hit record and we are going to start recording this workshop. Again, it is completely optional if you want to keep your camera on, if your audio on. I think everybody does, but if you don't have your first and last name, just make sure you're changing that so we can take attendance. I'll do my best to monitor the chat if people prefer to type questions. Sarah will help me keep an eye on that. This will be a shorter workshop. We're hoping to aim for closer to 30 minutes, but I'll hang around, for time after that if people have one-on-one or specific questions. The purpose of this workshop is really that I want to bring attention to the fact that it isn't too early to start and that it is actually time to be thinking about finals. There's only about 3 weeks left to the semester, and this can be such a stressful time for people. There's always going to be some stress to finals in the end of the semester. I can't take all of that away, but I do really think that if we plan far enough in advance and we think through things, we can cut down a little bit of that stress and anxiety, and that's really what I'm hoping for you guys. There we go. Okay. So I'm just playing with my slides there. Okay, perfect. So the first thing I want to point out is that we want to lay everything out there. So if you are somebody who is great with your planner, you've been organized all semester, whether it is, a typical planner, if it's a wall calendar, a desk calendar, a whiteboard, if you have a system that is working, I am absolutely not asking you to ditch that and try to start something new at this point. If it's working, great. I do bring this up though, because I know a lot of people start the semester with the best of intentions, and then we don't always follow through. Maybe we didn't start off with a planner, or maybe it just fell by the wayside. It's not too late at this point to really end the semester well and say, okay, these are the last 2 or 3 weeks that I have. Let's lay out what I want them to look like. And, it might be a busier time than other points in the semester. So you might find that you need a planner at this point, even if you didn't before. And so we'll talk more about it, but attached to that email I sent out yesterday was one example of a template. And we'll also make sure that it's on Blackboard. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. I wanted to address just the thought, isn't it too early to think about finals like 3 weeks from now? And yeah, there are some things that maybe you won't be able to do yet, but here's what I kind of want us to think through. Cramming doesn't necessarily work. And when I say necessarily, sure, you can memorize some formulas right before an exam. Absolutely. Night before, cram, and maybe you'll do successful on that test. But especially when it's a class that is going to have other classes building on top of it, if it's something for your major, if you're in Chem 1 and you need to take Chem 2, please don't cram, because that information is not going to stick long term. You might even ace that exam, but next week, if you had to take the same test, probably wouldn't go well. And so that's what, I know people sometimes have success with cramming, but I really just don't feel like it's usually a good long-term solution. And so obviously the alternative to cramming is spreading that out, and we're going to talk about that. I want you to allow time for unexpected delays and questions. It doesn't look great when we're trying to ask for extensions the night before, or ask critical questions about the assignment, 3 a.m. the night before. What do you want me to do in this paper? Or what was the expectation of this assignment? We want to give ourselves enough time for things to come up and to give ourselves some wiggle room. Maybe you don't think you're going to need a tutor to prep for something, and then you realize, wow, I really wish I could have somebody look over this paper. We want that flexibility. You need to make sure that tests and assignments don't overlap. Again, that's where I talk about reducing that stress and reducing that anxiety that a lot of people feel. You might still have stress about a test, but if you can prevent everything from happening the same week by spreading things out or starting one thing a little earlier, that can help with that. And it can make it feel a little bit more doable. Is it possible to do it all, within the week before? Maybe. Is it how you do your best work and treat your mental health the best? Probably not. You may need time to acquire materials. It could be articles, it could be books, it could be interview materials. You have to talk to somebody about this project. Less so now with virtual classes, but when you're in person, because this is information that I hope will serve you for the rest of your time as a student. If it's a physical project, if it's a poster board, we don't want to run out to, Walmart 10 o'clock at night, the night before, trying to get our, whatever materials we need. So giving us the time to be flexible and get what we need in a timely manner, rather than, again, trying to stress ourselves out by, oh my gosh, I need to find somebody to interview for this psychology project. Who am I going to find? And creating that extra panic that maybe you don't need. And lastly, why would you create more stress for yourself, right? Like, sometimes things happen at the last minute, but if we can prevent it from being last minute, again, I know I'm an academic advisor, but really my priority in many ways is everybody's mental health, because that's when you do the best work. So this is kind of it's just a screenshot of the blank planner that I sent you guys and that will be available. It's in your email, it's on Blackboard, but to be honest, any calendar really will work for you. If you have a wall calendar, you can just pull out December and use it. You can always Google printable monthly calendars, and there's many great websites that you can pick exactly what you want it to show. The other thing that you would probably need if you were doing this yourself, again, future semesters when maybe you don't have me making you a template, grab the academic calendar. So I did it for you this time. I put in, the last day of classes, but that's all information that's always going to be available to students. But you get a free pass this time. I made it for you. You can fill this out digitally. If you have access to a printer, that might be helpful. But again, if you don't know where to start, this is a good template. So what am I going to do with it? What do I do? Okay, I have this great calendar. I have my wall calendar. I have whatever it is. We're going to start pretty similar to how I recommend you start your planner at the beginning of the semester. I'm going to have you write down all the exam and quiz dates, the actual dates that things are either due or take place on. Same thing with any assignments, small or large. You might have already had a weekly discussion board and maybe you're in the routine of that, but I do think that it can influence, how other assignments and study time might fall. So I do really recommend anything that's due in the next 3 weeks, get it on there. And then when it comes to these larger projects or studying for larger exams, things that maybe you haven't had through the semester, it's just one final big project, create some start dates, create some midway points. Where do you want to, okay, I need to do my research here. I need to have my first draft there. By doing that, it breaks it down into more doable steps. And I think it also shows you that as long as I stick to this plan, I'll be successful. I can do it. There is time for me to get everything done. I just need to stick to this plan. And sometimes that can be hard to do for a whole semester, stick to a plan, but this sometimes is more doable, right? I can do this for 2 or 3 weeks. It's a lot. I got a lot on my plate, but you can do anything for 2 weeks, especially when it ends with winter break, right? Especially, okay, after this, I'll have a lot less on my plate. So create dates to start studying as well. So not just starting projects, but when do I really need to start breaking down the chapters and things like that? We'll talk a little bit more in detail in a few slides. Breaking these into smaller steps. Also allocate what days that you might need to seek support. So thinking in advance, this is a time where people are busy. Tutors are busy, professors are busy, advisors are busy because everybody's pulling on them for resources. That's fine. But then we get down to, if you want to be able to use that person, you might need to let them know in advance. Tutoring, office hours, and somebody to proofread, whatever it is, thinking about where on your calendar, all right, I'm going to make an appointment with Mary to work on this paper, to review this paper. That gives me the guideline that I need to have a rough draft by this date so that Mary has something to look at and can give me feedback on. And so that's how they kind of are all intertwined, right? We almost work backwards. It's due this day. I need to have a rough draft by this day. And so far, and you'll see in a few slides, I've kind of done a visual representation of that. Finally, I do want to mention planning time for rest, because you'll have it all laid out. You'll be able to see, is there a day or two that maybe you can't say there's no schoolwork, but maybe it's a lot later, or, you know, I am going to make sure to do something that's just for me. I'm going to have a movie marathon. I might need to, you know, do a little reading in the evening. But I think it is really important to give ourselves that mental break. I say movie marathon, it also might be really important to think about screen breaks. So if you are doing a lot of computer-based studying, reading, writing, you might need to make your mental health break not Netflix. It might need to be get out for a hike or play a board game with a friend, or you know, somebody in your house. Whatever it is, play with the dog, draw, paint, something that just gives your eyes a break. Because again, the physical health of our eyes and staring at the screen. So that's that. Here is my hand-drawn template. You know, I could have done it on the computer, but I wanted to show you guys what it might really look like if you printed it. My handwriting is terrible, and I am aware of that. So, you know, I am no better than anyone else. I liked color coding. That's optional. This is what kind of works for me. Please feel free to use this template in a way that is good for you. So what I did is I had those 3 classes and I color coded them. I kind of laid out what I had left. So in my theoretical schedule here, you can see that my English paper is due on the 23rd. So it's due literally on the last day of class. So I worked backwards. I figured, well, having a tutoring appointment on the 21st gives me time for one last review. So I even have the day before that. My focus is going to be getting that paper ready for my last tutoring appointment. You know, if you look about a week before that, the 14th, you know, I have another draft I want to have a draft of my paper written. And going all the way back before that, obviously this is a fictional research paper. So I put in a few days specifically for research. I needed to either find articles or books or things like that before I could even start. I think this is a really good point. Even if you are not planning on starting the assignment early, I want you to, but I know that's not always realistic. If you can at least do yourself the favor and read through what the assignment is. Let's say I was set on writing that paper the night before. Nobody can tell me otherwise. I am going to pull an all-nighter and I'm going to do it. What would have been my main downfall is that I might have not had time to do that research. Or maybe I needed to get a particular book from the library. If at least I read through the assignment and I know I need to go ahead and get those documents ready, again, I don't want you to pull an all-nighter, but take into account those things that are really going to take time. That being said, I really can't tell you enough how many times I do see feedback from faculty about, you've obviously haven't had anyone read over this. It's great to have a writing tutor do it, a friend, a family member. Honestly, sometimes I think it's better when they don't know what you're writing about. You're like, oh, my mom can't read my paper on physics. She doesn't know what physics, you know, what I'm writing about. No, that's perfect, because if you want the reader to understand it, it's almost better if the reader is new to the topic. So again, planning out all the pieces of your assignments, of your projects, of your paper, and kind of mapping that so it has a good flow to it, and you don't have any last minute surprises. Psychology, you can see that I had that as more of a final exam type class. Obviously, you need to think a little bit about if it's just a final test that's a couple chapters or cumulative. We'll talk about studying for exams in a minute. But I set this up to be a cumulative exam. You can see that I'm starting really early. December 2nd. So yesterday I would have started with chapters, 1 through 5. Then the next week, 6 through 11. And then the remaining, maybe reviewing the things that were really difficult for me to remember. You don't want to study that much material in just a few days before your exam. Again, that goes back to cramming. If you take any class after that, that really is going to build on that material, I think you're going to have a hard time. Lastly, this fictional student is taking math. I did that more of a kind of my math lab style class where I know a lot of them, they're saying they will take late work until the last day of class. So this person on the 13th, work on late work. If they missed any assignments, you know what? Let's see, double check. Did I miss anything? Can I get those points back? I did a lot more days of just math studying. So those are probably days where I'm going to do practice problems. I'm going to need to do a little bit of that every few days to really memorize that. Again, mathematics is not something I'm going to sit down, study one time for 5 hours and really have it solid. Finally, I do want to point out, I did put a couple rest days on there. I might be still doing a little bit of studying, but those are the 2 days. I kind of spread them out that I can really prioritize stepping back and taking a break. Good, Anthony, I see you were talking about your paper. And you were saying there's a paper due on the 13th. That's the other reason that I am bringing this up. The last day of the semester is the 23rd, but some classes are ending sooner than that. I'm not sure, Anthony, if you have things that are even due after that, but it is not.
Right. I think I might for sociology, but right now I'm working on a research paper for a topic in history, and I was happy to find out in an email that my professor had sent me that he really seemed to like the rough draft. And
absolutely.
And so now I know that it's just going to be about expanding on and elaborating a few details instead of like completely changing course.
Absolutely. And that's an excellent segue because my next slide is preparing for papers. And so everybody's timeline is going to be a little different, right? Like Anthony, you're looking to do this in the next 10 days. Some people might have more like 20 days, depending on if it's due, maybe the very last day. So the first thing, I know we talked about this, but can't emphasize enough, read through the assignment ASAP. Do you need anything? Again, if we're getting books, if we're getting articles, if we need to interview somebody, those take time. And I don't want you to leave that for the last minute. And then that planning backwards. So you know what your due date is. Thinking about realistically, you could do like, when do I want halfway done? Or you can think about in pages. If it's a 10-page paper, what is it realistic for me to get done every day, and splitting it up like that?
I'd like to personally, I'm going to try to get my research paper finished. I'm going to be working on it this week as well, but I want to set a submission date for the space and time between the 6th and the 13th.
Absolutely. And I think this also brings up, we always talk about, I don't want just due dates in your planner. If it's a bigger assignment like these papers, this is why it's important to do a start date, because you might need to be getting those gears going more than a week before. And if you're not somebody who's flipping through several weeks of your planner at a time.
My strategy over about the past 2 semesters has been to make sure that I have a version that I feel like I'll be able to submit a day or two before the due date, so that there's time for response from the professor to make any, even if it's just small changes.
Absolutely. So I have a couple slides left, and I want to try to respect the 1 o'clock deadline, though. Like I said, I'll stick around for people that have questions. We talked about this, you know, do you need to consider when a family friend or tutor is available to look over that paper? The other thing with it, whether it's a research paper or really any type, I do really recommend an outline. I know a lot of us, we did them in middle school, high school, like this is, you know, what I want to write here, and this is what I want to write here, and we kind of fall out of it. I think it helps us stay on topic and can really give you an idea of what you want to have in your paper. We could probably do a whole workshop on, not probably, we could definitely do several workshops on actually writing that paper. But I do think that doing an outline of what topics you want to write about keeps you on track, which will save you time. If you're stuck, start anywhere. I do think there's this misconception that you need to start at the beginning of your paper. If you feel super inspired to write a particular piece, go ahead and start, whether it's the middle, whether it's the end, whatever. Jump in, and a lot of times that will get you going.
Progress you can make on that part will serve as a proxy for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So definitely get that out of your head that you need to start in any particular part. Finally, don't be afraid to ask for help, but also don't wait till the last minute. Again, it doesn't look great when you're emailing your professor the night before, you know, hey, this assignment that's due in 6 hours, I need help. They want to help you, but they might not have access to or their email, or might just not be able to email you back or respond within that time frame. All right, so that's papers in a nutshell. Again, we can chat one-on-one if people have questions. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about exams, because that's obviously something that's really common. Again, talked about cramming. I don't like it. I think it's, you know, not the best use of people's time. We also started to talk about considering how many chapters the exam will cover. Sometimes it's just a final test. There are 4 tests for the whole semester, and they're broken up pretty evenly. In that case, you know how you've done on the first 3 tests. If those things were working for you, go ahead and continue. What I'm more concerned about are those cumulative exams, the exam that's going to cover the full semester. Which, by the way, if you crammed on the first couple exams, that's going to make that cumulative test harder, right? Because you won't remember what was covered on the first test. Just like I did in that sample, break it down. How many chapters do you have, or how many units or things like that? And how can I spread it out pretty evenly over the time that I have, whether it's 1 week from now, 3 weeks from now. I would leave a few days before the exam, again, unexpected questions, especially again with math. If you have a particular formula or something like that that comes up while you're studying, you want to have a few days of wiggle room to say, hey, can we chat about this? Can we Zoom or whatever it is, so that, you know, you can give me a refresher. Again, if you have those few days and it's far enough out, I think your faculty is really going to be supportive and willing to review that with you. The other thing I really want to point out is mixing up your study methods. This is not new. If you meet with me at all, I tell people this all the time. When I ask, hey, how do you study for your test? The most common answer is, well, I look at my notes. And not that that's wrong, but the more varied you can make your study techniques, the better it's going to set in your head. And you're going to, you know, same amount of time studying, but you're going to get more value out of that. So read it out loud, watch a video, rewrite your notes, do flashcards, draw pictures, explain it to somebody else, do a sample problem. Literally anything you can do that's more than just visually looking at the text is really going to, again, help set it in a different part of your brain, make it easier to recall. So what materials might we want to study, again, rather than just a typical book? So hopefully you have some notes, whether you took those notes from a lecture, whether you took them from your reading, faculty PowerPoints. But something I want to emphasize that I think doesn't get enough attention is old exams, old quizzes, old papers. If you do have access to any of that, reviewing what you did well, and also what questions you missed. A lot of times faculty are even pulling exact questions from past tests and mixing them up. I know people who I've been in classes where everybody got, question 2 wrong on the first exam. And we went over it in class because everybody got it wrong. Well, guess what? It showed up on the final because the professor wanted to make sure that you were listening. And if you were listening, it was a gimme, like they told you what the answer was. But if you didn't, pay attention, you probably would have missed it a second time. Related videos. So even if your faculty isn't posting videos, doing a quick YouTube search, again, at least rather than reading, we're hearing it. You can be listening to that while you are, walking on the treadmill, walking outside, cooking. Your studying doesn't all have to just be there sitting, staring at the computer. You can.
I do that. I do this
Yeah.
a lot. I like to watch like videos that generally on like that pertain to things like world history and then
Absolutely.
social science and sociology.
Absolutely. And especially, every professor has a different teaching style, and there's nothing wrong if you and their style don't match up perfectly. That's how the world works. So sometimes you can find somebody online that can explain it in a way that's better for you. So I love YouTube.
I watch all the videos that we make in like that we have in the class, and then I also will kind of like expand on that. Like I'll watch like their videos that my sociology professor recommends that I look at in like that I actually have access to, that some of the kids in this class and other class actually don't have access to. So
I think that's a fair point. If you feel lost on what to watch, if your faculty haven't been recording their own videos, I think it's a fair question to say, do you have particular channels or podcasts that you like or you would recommend? And they might have something that they can share with you, even if it's not created themselves. So definitely, yeah, I love videos, love listening to that stuff while doing
on the Blackboard. I have there's a video section, and in sociology it's called the Way We Live series. It's basically made different types of videos that are related to like
awesome
what we're studying that week.
Cool. Yeah. And so sometimes the faculty, I don't think, know that students want that. So it sounds like, did you go ahead and reach out to your professors to get some of those things, or were they just already part of the class?
It was part of the class. Like after this, an hour after this, I'm going to be attending a WebEx meeting with my sociology professor and the class, and we watch some of the videos, and
very cool.
And I watch some of the stuff that he recommends to me that he sets on the Blackboard, and I also will go even further and watch and relate it to some of the videos that I also, as somebody who's interested in this kind of stuff, I also look up other types of like sociology or history videos on YouTube and kind of like relate it to what I've been watching in class.
Absolutely. So that's our last slide. So, let's continue chatting. If people, others have questions or specific things that they have coming up that they want to share about, whether you guys want to turn your cameras on or whether you want to chat. I'm seeing a comment about, these cumulative exams can be really stressful. And that's my biggest thing. That's why I start advertising the finals countdown in a time that seems early for people, because I don't want that sneaking up on you. Some things can be done the week before. I'm not going to say that that's not possible. But yeah, breaking things down takes time, reviewing all the material, reading the books, as well as, watching any videos. That's just all time consuming. And if you do too much at one time, I think that's another great point, is you can only sit for so many hours in one sitting, right? Like if you have to study 10 hours for one particular quiz or smaller exam, so we'll just use 10 hours, right? What's more if I do 1 hour a day for 10 days in a row, or if I try to do 10 hours literally in one day before the exam? Spreading it out, right? So I'm not actually asking you to study more. It's not like, oh, you need to triple your study time. I want you to be smarter about it, so that you get more value from the same amount of time. Because I know you guys are busy. I know you guys, some of you are working, some of you have big family commitments right now, whether it's your own children, some people are helping with siblings that are doing remote learning. It's not that I think you guys are sitting around not doing anything. We want to use that time to the best of our ability.
Is it a possibility, let's just say that you didn't get a chance to finish that specific assignment that was due on that specific date, or any assignments in particular, is it possible that you can make up those assignments during the spring semester or during the summertime? Because if that's a possibility,
So typically, no. Typically, classes are ended and over with December 23rd, and then the professors have a few days. People with extenuating circumstances can definitely talk with the professor and might be eligible for an incomplete. That's something you have to chat with each professor about. I also encourage everyone to read your syllabi closely. I guess I should say each professor is able to choose whatever rules fit their class. Some faculty do not accept late work at all. You miss the deadline, that's it, you're not able to turn that in. Other faculty, I've heard classes where they say, as long as it's in before the last day of class, I'll still accept it. And then there are some faculty that do something in between. Maybe they take some points off or something like that. But in general, unless you're getting it incomplete, you do need to complete everything before the end of the semester. Does that answer your question, Liam?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What else?
I guess if I had a question, it would be what I plan to do is I plan to get I'm gonna do some of the like quizzes for like history and sociology right after this, and then maybe and then definitely tomorrow I'm gonna also get started on not get started, but I keep I guess I meant to say, start doing the final stuff that I need to do for the, change it from a rough draft to the final draft in my research paper, and also finish up the I also have another assignment for history for this week, and then finish up what I need for sociology. And then I plan to also attend the next finals count workshop on the 7th. And at that point, I'll have less than a week to go before the deadline. And I hope that between that time and the deadline, I'll be able to get to submit it, and then see if there's anything that I should improve on, or maybe even just ask before I submit it, just email a copy to the professor.
Yeah. So a couple things that I want to bring up from that, just so you guys all know, Monday's workshop is the same as what we just covered. It's just a repeat for those that are working during the day and maybe couldn't make it. You're welcome to come if you feel like it's worthwhile, but it is going to be the same PowerPoint and the same information. This will also be recorded, and we'll put up the PowerPoint. So if you're somebody who just wanted to rewatch a little piece of it, you'll be able to do that. Anthony, something that I think kind of you made me think of is that when you look back at that template I made, certain classes are going to end sooner than others. And so that is part of prioritizing it, right? You'll see that in that sample, if I can go backwards, maybe it'll let me. Math kind of ended on the 19th. And so I front loaded a little bit more of that math work where, English was pretty evenly spread out, and psychology was, but if a class ends sooner, you might need to prioritize that, where other stuff, this isn't due until the last day of class. So Again, at least read over the assignment, but if you kind of put the bulk of the work at the end, that's okay. And I think you were saying you have some different deadlines and some things are already started. And that's really where the strategy comes in and why we're doing this, because there is a little bit of art and skill in organizing this in a way that will actually, again, not keep us stressed out. You know, we want to be not just for your mental health, but obviously you're going to do your best work. And so it all kind of ties in together. So I think that's a great point. It sounds like you've thought about how they all flow and everything like that. So that's exactly what we're looking for. Any other questions? I'll definitely hang out for another minute.
I'm good on questions.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for letting me join.
Yeah, it was good to see you. Like I said, I'm going to end the recording, but if people have, you know, more private questions they want to hang out and ask, feel free. Thank you guys for all coming.
Welcome.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye.